Hey, this is Dani, You and Me Living Free, and I was going to do a couple of shorts on these topics, and then there's this saying that I have that has been really impactful for me, and I keep coming back to it, and it's urgency is a trauma response. And I keep trying to do a short about it, but I can't keep it to 1 minute. Like, I can't, my brain can't say anything in 1 minute. Sometimes shorts are so great just for that little splash or whatever, but I tend to be long-winded anyway. And I find there's value in really kind of talking things through. And so I wanted to say more about a couple of things. Okay, so if you've been watching me, you know I'm kind of going through this big transitional period where I was out on the road traveling in my minivan back and forth to Kansas City for 14 to 18 months, depending on kind of how you look at it. Anyway, it was over a year, almost a year and a half. And I was not working like a regular job during that time. I saved up money so that I could take off for a year, right? And then it took me a while to get back to work. So I tried some nomad job type things, and but basically, especially for at least another year or so, I need to make enough money where I can support a home plus do some travel in the van. Okay. So that's my situation. So, long story short, what I wanted to say is, I think there are a lot of people out there who maybe you got to work from home during COVID and you might be being called back to work. I find a lot of similarity in some of the stuff that I'm going through with people in that situation, because now I really, really enjoy the work that I do. And I like my job very, very much, but it is a huge adjustment for me to go from not working to go to sticks and bricks 5 days a week is a huge, huge, huge adjustment. And so I thought about sharing a couple of things that are really helping me, because even if you're not in a similar situation to that, these are things that really help in life. Because you know, we can have the same situation and we can have two different perspectives on that situation, and it changes everything. It changes how we think about it, and it changes how we feel about it. So I work a lot on my own perspective and on my own brain and how I see things, because we can work to change things, but accepting where we are now and doing the best we can, and recognizing that, yes, we live in situations in this world, but mostly we live in our brain. We live with that little voice that talks to us all the time and can be predominantly negative. That's the space we really live in. So I work a lot to cultivate that and to cultivate my perspective. And how can I work to have a perspective or a view on things that empowers me to change it if I don't like it, that empowers me to be happy and joyful and powerful and empowered and all of that. So anyway, long story short, so I told you already, the first line is urgency is a trauma response. And this is something that just popped out of TikTok a few weeks ago, maybe more than a few weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago or so. Anyway, urgency is a trauma response. And my head did kind of like a mini explode, because especially at work, and especially, but I do it a lot in my life, or I have a lot of urgency around stuff. And at work, typically I'm almost always under a deadline. And if there isn't, and there's almost always an external deadline, like this newsletter has to be done here, this blog post has to be done, this project has to be done, this, you know, the creation of the yearbook has to be done and to the printer by this date, right? Like, so there are these deadlines, and it creates urgency when there's not enough time. And also, I have made a commitment, because I can be someone who tends toward workaholism. I can be, because I want to do my best and I'm really passionate about things, and I really can go all in. But one of the things I work on a lot is having some balance, and I will give literally 100% while I am at work between the hours of 9:30 and 5:30. But when I'm leaving work, I cut it off, and like mentally and creatively and energetically, I want to give everything I have to my real life, not to keep thinking about work and put all my creative ideas into work and all my creative energy and all my, what is that idea? Have you heard that idea? Like at the beginning of the day, you get so many spoons. You have a handful of so many spoons, and each spoon might be like a decision or a thing you have to do or a whatever, but it all takes your energy or whatever. And you have this much. Okay. And that's just reality. There's a lot of things that we can do to expand that and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But these are how many spoons I have today. So I don't want to leave work and have all my spoons gone. And I certainly don't want to come home and continue to spend any spoons that I have still on work stuff. Because you know how your brain will work in its off time to solve problems and to come up with creative ideas. I want my brain during my off time to be working on my life. I want creative ideas for my YouTube channel. I want creative ideas for life. I want creative ideas on growth and expansion and what can I do to live the life I really, really want to live. Okay. So that's where I want my energy going. Anyway, I'm going to share things that are helping me. And one of them is urgency as a trauma response. Now, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I have been trained as a life coach, but I think each of us just kind of recognizes truth when they hear it, or we recognize, and things that we need to know, things that we need to take notice of. Something in you will just kind of grab onto it like, oh, that's big. I needed to hear that, right? And so what I do with this statement, urgency as a trauma response, I have a lot of deadlines. A lot of them are external and they're real. Others are more like, oh, I didn't get enough done today. I better, hurry up and do this. Or it's a trauma response. And it doesn't really matter what it is for me or the details of it, but it's so good to recognize it, because for me, it's like this reaction that's like, I better not disappoint you or you won't love me. Hello, childhood, right? I better do everything I can to keep things okay, so that life can be okay, so that we can have an even keel, so that we can, whatever. So those kind of things in life, that's what it is for me, is kind of this thing from childhood. Things might have been unstable at different times. And I was the one who needed to keep the boat steady. I saw that as my job, hello, codependency. We've all done therapy, right? Have we all done therapy? I mean, our parents did the best they could. Their parents did the best they could, but we're really like the first kind of generation that's, in my mind, that's had access to like therapy and different things where we can look at some of those things that happened to us in childhood and how they have shaped us, and have something, have another choice other than just to go through our lives reacting to those things and to letting it define us, but really having a choice and saying, oh, this happened and that created this personality trait in me, or this tendency in me, or this strength in me, or this fear in me, or whatever, and look at those things and then say, oh, that doesn't really serve me very well. I wonder what I could do to kind of turn that around, or make that work for me. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Can you see why short form videos are great, but they don't work all that well? I've already talked for 9 minutes and I haven't even gotten to my point. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But if you're here and you're still watching, you're in it for the story and for the blabbering on and for the rabbit trails and for all of it. And I love you. And if you are still here right now at the 9.5 minute mark, let me know in the comments. And we'll do it again at the end, because I love that too. Okay, so if you're still here, you're in it. I use this statement all the time as just a reminder. And at work, I go through, as soon as I get to work, I go through a little routine. I go through my emails and social media comments and stuff like that, because I'm in marketing. And I prioritize my day. And I write at the top of my sheet of paper, I'll write a couple of intentions, mantras, things I want to keep in mind. And now for weeks, every single day I have written urgency is a trauma response at the top of my paper, because I need the reminder constantly. I need the reminder constantly, because I will go into urgency and overperforming and please like me, and here didn't I do a good job, and like all of this. Okay, I still do need it every day. So I've been writing at the top of my paper. I actually might not need it every single day. I might go to every other day and then do another one, because I'll do 2 or 3 statements at the top of my page. And I'll share more of them as we go if you want. A couple of the other ones I use are, you're never upset for the reason you think. You're never upset for the reason you think. That is from Course in Miracles, but Eckhart Tolle talks about it a lot. Eckhart Tolle? Anyway, I can never say his name right. I started, before I heard anybody pronounce it, when I read his books years ago, I said Tolle. And then now I think it's like Toll. Anyway, I can't pronounce his name. Doesn't matter. I'm like, sorry, us Americans tend to be bad at stuff like that, but I'm terrible. Anyway, Eckhart, my buddy Eckhart, basically says very simply, to that point, that we're never upset for the reason that we think, is that we're upset because we are out of alignment with the present moment. And what that means is we're just fighting against what is. Like something has already happened and we're upset that it happened and it shouldn't have happened or whatever. And so we get into a spin or we get into a tiff. And that's always why we are upset. It's never because of a specific thing or anything. It's because we're out of alignment with the present moment. In other words, not fully accepting what has happened. So we can work like crazy to change things, but first comes just this acceptance of what is, because to fight against what is literally like the definition of insanity, right? This is the situation. So wishing for it to be any different is a waste of our time. That doesn't mean we aren't human and that we aren't going to have reactions and we might get upset about things and we might whatever. But the point is to look at it and to have that reaction. Don't hold back your emotions or stifle them. Have that reaction like, oh, this is so unfair. I can't believe that happened. And oh, this really is terrible. But then there's a difference between that and then continuing that cycle in your brain and letting that momentum of the whirlpool get going. And then it reminds you of other things that aren't fair and how blah, blah, blah. And you get all of a sudden, and now it's pervading everything. And now you're really dragging it out. And now you are causing your own suffering. There can be those emotions or that suffering that come from when something happens. And then there's all the extra that we just create ourselves by globbing on thoughts and by going down that road, right? And it's just nice to notice is all. And almost all of growth or of change starts with a noticing. We can't change anything that we don't notice or we don't have awareness around. So it all starts with awareness. Awareness is this huge, great, big, huge thing that we need to cultivate. But to cultivate awareness, we need space. If we're always in this urgent way of thinking and one thing right after another and there's no space. And if there's no space, there's no awareness, self-awareness in particular, and no noticing. It's just like one thing after another, blah, 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 blah. And then we're oblivious and we're just going through the motions and we're reacting and all of this stuff and it doesn't feel good. So I want to be as deliberate as I can because this is a time of great change. I've gone back to work. Not only am I working, but being in sticks and bricks 8 hours a day is rough. It's rough. I'm not going to lie. And before I had the year off, I was working fully remote, like most people, like a lot of people, right? I was working fully remote And I was very efficient and very good at working remotely. I know some people get distracted, some people whatever. For me, it worked beautifully. Like, I loved it. I had very strong boundaries, but I would also, you know how long it takes to take one load and put it in the washing machine and then come back? It takes about 4 minutes or so. I could do a load of laundry. Like, I wouldn't probably fold it till the end of the day, but like during the day, just taking a few minutes here and there helped me so much to have more of a balance between life and work and everything. When you are there for 8 hours a day, you are away from home, you are completely involved in what you're doing at work. I literally, for the first 3 months, like, I didn't even make a phone call to get my car repaired while I was on work time. Nobody at my work takes a lunch. Now, I love the job that I do, and I really, really like the people I work with and everything, but there's a cultural thing there that is just like kind of work, work, work. So I have to carve out my own way of dealing with that and everything, right? If you walk away from this video with these two things, and then you use one of them or both of them in your life, then let me know in the comments. But the first one is urgency as a trauma response. This has been a game changer for me, honestly. I know people say that a lot, but it really has for me. Just, you know, I look at time I spend on TikTok most of the time as wasted time, but I get recipes and every once in a while I just hear a little tidbit of that wisdom that I need at the right moment, because I really do feel like everything's working together for our good, right? I really do have that belief that everything works together for good. So urgency is a trauma response, game changer for me. And the other one is, I am never upset for the reason I think. I'm never upset for the reason I think. We get upset because we are at odds with what is. We are out of alignment with the present moment. And that's a very deep one, but I can pull up that one multiple times a day when I'm sitting in awareness, and when I'm giving myself space to kind of think in between tasks and have a little bit of time and things like that, when I'm having awareness. And so the main thing is, during these times of big change and everything, I want to be so intentional. I don't want to just go through the motions. I want to be very intentional about not only how I'm spending my time, but how I am focused mentally. And when I notice things that annoy me or shouldn't be this way or whatever, it's so helpful to pull up, I'm never upset for the reason I think. Because the brain immediately will go to, no, you have reason to be upset. That's, somebody did something and that's not right. And that's perfectly fine. That's a human reaction. That is perfectly fine to have that reaction. But I'm not going to let that define me, and I'm not going to let that be as far as I go with it. I'm going to come back and have another look at it and realize, what's my part to play in that? What am I seeing now that I can accept, and then what do I want to change about it? All of that. So it all starts with that awareness of, oh, see what I'm doing there? I'm reacting like that, but what if I'm just, this has happened, it is what it is, so I'm crazy to fight against it, so what now? And that's a whole other conversation that's much more empowering than, this person did something they shouldn't have, or this situation, you know, isn't working for me, or whatever. It's very empowering to fully accept this is what is, and then take it from there as to what you can do about it. So good stuff. I hope this helps somebody. This helps me just to talk it out, and figure things out for myself. And even though I've been using this helps, like, solidifies it even more for me, because I'm kind of a verbal processor. So I like to kind of get things out. I need to journal it. I need to say it so that I can examine it and process at a deeper level. And you know how it's that onion, and you know, anybody who does any work on themselves or self-awareness, any of that, everybody knows it's like an onion, and there's so many layers. And we learn the same lessons again and again and again and again because we're at a different level. And so it sinks in at a deeper place, right? Because haven't you ever been in a situation and seen something come up for you and you're like, oh, I thought I dealt with that a long time ago, or I thought I dealt with that in therapy. I thought I dealt with that in my marriage and working through that. But the same stuff comes around again and again and again. It doesn't mean we haven't done the work and we aren't further along. We always are. It's just, it's either the onion analogy or I prefer it like the parking garage analogy. So the parking garage, you're going around and around and around, but you're going up a level every time if you want to look at it by levels. But it's just one visual way to think of, yeah, I may be facing the same issue, but I'm at a different point when I'm looking at it. Anyway, I hope that helps someone. I think that'll help someone today because that's a pretty valid that's a pretty good thing to keep in mind. It's terrible to kind of beat ourselves up a little bit when we feel like we're working on ourselves, whether therapy or coaching or just by trying to do something that's kind of just out of our reach. Anytime we're like really trying to be the best person that we can be the most that we can be, give the highest contribution that we can. When we're kind of pushing ourselves like that, that's when we come up against this stuff. Not when we are just, going through the motions, doing the same things every day and, and living life, that way, which is just on this kind of straight trajectory. That's one way to go. And different phases in life are different, right? Some phases in life are big change and, let's do a million different things. And other phases are, okay, I need to plod along right now, whatever. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just different phases of life and where we are and things like that. So anyway, hope this helps someone today. Let me know if you made it to the end of the video. You definitely deserve a medal. Thank you. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.